Oh, bless you, no. But she let old Blesham rest. And when I ran back after my gloves this afternoon, there she was, so hard at the vicar that she didn't hear me laugh as I danced a jig in the hall, because of the good time coming. What a pleasant life she might have, if if she only chose. I don't envy her much, in spite of her money, for after all, rich people have about as many worries as poor ones, I think, added Joe. That reminds me, said Meg, that I've got something to tell. It isn't funny, like Joe's story, but I thought about it a good deal as I came home. At the King's today, I found everybody in a flurry, and one of the children said that her oldest brother had done something dreadful, and Papa had sent him away. I heard Mrs. King crying and Mr. King talking very loud, and Grace and Ellen turned away their faces when they passed me, so I shouldn't see how red their eyes were. I didn't ask any questions, of course, but I felt so sorry for them, and was rather glad I hadn't any wild brothers to do wicked things and disgrace the family. I think being disgraced in school is a great deal trying. Oh no, is it trying? Not trying. Trying than anything bad. Trying. Wow. Boys and do, said Amy, shaking her head, as if her experience of life had been a deep one. Susie Perkins came to school today with a lovely red carnelian. Carnelian. What is this one? Carnelian ring. I wanted it dreadfully, and wished I was her with all my might. Well, she drew a picture of Mr. Davis with a monstrous nose and a hump, and the words, young ladies, my eye is upon you, coming out of his mouth in a balloon thing. We were laughing over it, when all of a sudden his eye on us, and he ordered Susie to bring up her slate. She was paralyzed with fright, but she went, and oh, what do you think he did? He took her by the ear, not ear, the ear, just fancy how horrid, and led her to the recitation platform, and made her stand there half an hour, holding that slate so everyone could see it. All right? Didn't the girls laugh at the picture? Asked Joe, who relished the scrape. Again, this word, relished. Laugh, not at one. They sat as still as mice, and Susie cried quarts. I know. Quarts, yeah. I know she did. I didn't envy her then, for I felt that millions of carnelian rings wouldn't have made me happy after that. I never should have got over such an agonizing mortification. And Amy went on with her work in the proud consciousness of virtue and the successful utterance of two long words in a breath. I saw something that I liked this morning, and I meant to tell it at dinner, but I forgot, said Beth, putting Joe's topsy-turvy basket in order as she talked. When I went to get some oysters for Hannah, Mr. Lawrence was in the fish shop, but he didn't see me for I kept behind a barrel, and he was busy with Mr. Cutter, the fishman. A poor woman came in with a pail and a mop, and asked Mr. Cutter if he could let her would if he would let her do some scrubbing for a bit of fish, because she hadn't any dinner for her children, and had been disappointed of a day's work. Mr. Cutter was in a hurry, and said no, rather crossly. So she was going away, looking hungry and sorry, when Mr. Lawrence hooked up a big fish with the crooked end of his cane and held it out to her. She was so glad and surprised. She took it right in her arms and thanked him over and over. He told her to go along and cook it, and she hurried off, so happy. Wasn't it good of him? Oh, she did look so funny, hugging the big slippery fish, hoping Mr. Lawrence's bed in heaven would be icy. Icy. Bed in heaven would be icy. When they had laughed at Beth's story, they asked their mother for one, and after a moment's thought, she said soberly, I think it's soberly, as I sat cutting out blue flannel jackets today at the rooms, I felt very anxious about father, and thought how lonely and helpless we should be if anything happened to him. It was not a wise thing to do, but I kept on worrying till an old man came in with an order for some clothes. He sat down near me, and I began to talk to him, for he looked poor and tired and anxious. Have you sons in the army? I asked, for the note he brought was not to me. Yes, ma'am. I had 4, but 2 were killed. One is a prisoner, and I'm going to the other, who is very sick, in a Washington hospital. He answered quietly. You have done a great deal for your country, sir, I said, feeling respect now instead of pity. Not a mite more than I ought. What's this word? A mite. Than I ought, ma'am. I am so glad to give his all, that I was ashamed of myself. I'd given one man, and thought it was, and I thought it too much, while he gave 4 without grudging them. I had all my girls so comfortable to comfort me at home, and his last son was waiting miles away to say goodbye to him. Perhaps I felt so rich, so happy, thinking of my blessings, that I made him a nice bundle, gave him some money, and thanked him heartily for the lesson he had taught me. Tell another story, mother, one with a moral to it, like this. I like to think about them afterward, if they are real and not too preachy, said Joe, after a minute's silence. Mrs. March smiled and began at once, for she had told stories to this little audience for many years, and knew how to please them. Once upon a time there were 4 girls who had enough to eat and drink and wear, a good many comforts and pleasures, kind friends and parents who loved them dearly, and yet they were not contented. Here the listeners stole sly looks at one another, and began to sow diligently. These girls were anxious to be good and made many excellent resolutions, but somehow they did not keep them very well and were constantly saying, if we only had this, or if we could only do that, quite forgetting how much they already had and how many pleasant things they actually could do. So they asked an old woman what spell they could use to make them happy, and she said, when you feel discontented, think over your blessings and be grateful. Here Joe looked up quite quickly, as if about to speak, but changed her mind, seeing that the story was not done yet. Being sensible girls, they decided to try her advice, and soon were surprised to see how well off they were. One discovered that money couldn't keep shame and sorrow out of rich people's houses. Another that, though she was poor, she was a great deal happier with her youth, health, and good spirits than a certain fretful, feeble, feeble old lady who couldn't enjoy her comforts. A third that, disagreeable as it was to help get dinner, it was harder still to have to go begging for it. And the fourth that even carnelian rings were not so valuable as good behavior, so they agreed to stop complaining, to enjoy the blessings. Already possessed and try to deserve them, lest they should be taken away entirely instead of increased. And I believe they were never disappointed or sorry that they took the old woman's advice. Now, Mommy, that is very canon of you to turn our own stories against us and give us a sermon instead of a romance, cried Meg. I like that kind of sermon. It is the sort Father used to tell us, said Beth, thoughtfully, putting the needles straight on Joe's cushion. I don't complain near as much as the others do, and I shall be more careful than ever now, for I've had warning from Susie's downfall, said Amy morally. We needed that lesson, and we won't forget it. If we do so, you just say to us, as old Chloe did in Uncle Tom, think ob ye masses chillin'. Think ob ye masses, added Joe, who could not for the life of her help getting a morsel of fun out of the little sermon, though she took it to heart as much as any of them. Alright, this word is a bit weird. I don't know. What does it mean? So, Chapter 5, being neighborly. Neighborly, yeah. What in the world are you going to do now, Joe? Asked Meg. One snowy afternoon, as her sister came tramping through the hall in rubber boots, old sack and hood, with a broom in one hand and a shovel in the other. Going out for exercise? Answered Joe, with a mischievous twinkle in her eyes. I should think 2 long walks this morning would have been enough. It is cold and dull out, and I advise you to stay warm and dry by the fire, as I do, said Meg with a shiver. Never take advice, can't keep still all day, and not being a pessy cat. Okay, pessy cat. I don't like to doze by the fire. Let me highlight this one. I like adventures, and I'm going to find some. Meg went back to toast her feet and read Ivanhoe, I think. Ivanhoe. And Joe began dig paths with great energy. The snow was light, and with her broom she soon swept a path all around the garden for Beth to walk in when the sun came out, and the invalid dolls needed air. Now the garden separated the March's house from that of Mr. Lawrence. Both stood in a suburb of the city, which was still country-like, with groves and lawns. Okay, large gardens and quiet streets. A low hedge parted the two estates. On one side was an old brown house, looking rather bare and shabby, robbed of the vines that in summer covered its walls, and the flowers which then surrounded it. On the other side was a stately stone mansion, plainly betokening every sort of comfort. Let me highlight this one. Comfort and luxury, from the big coach house and well-kept grounds to the conservatory, and the glimpses of lovely things one caught between the rich curtains. Yet it seemed a lonely, lifeless sort of house, for no children frolicked on the lawn, no motherly face ever smiled at the windows, and few people went in and out, except the old gentleman and his grandson. To Joe's lively fancy, this fine house seemed a kind of enchanted palace, full of splendors and delights which no one enjoyed. She had long wanted to behold. Okay, wanted to behold these hidden glories, and to know the Lawrence boy, who looked as if he would like to be known, if he only knew how to begin. Since the party, she had been more eager than ever, and had planned many ways of making friends with him. But he had not been lately seen, and Joe began to think he had gone away, when she one day spied a brown face at an upper window, looking wistfully down into their garden, where Beth and Amy were snowballing one another. "That boy is suffering for society and fun," she said to herself. "His grandpa does not know what's good for him, and keeps him shut up all alone. He needs a party of jolly boys to play with, or somebody young and lively. I've a great mind to go over and tell the old gentleman so." Let me see. 19 minutes. Okay. The idea amused Joe, who liked to do daring things and was always scandalizing Meg by her odd performances. The plan of going over was not forgotten, and when the snowy afternoon came, Joe resolved to try what could be done. She saw Mr. Lawrence drive off, and then sallied? Oh, wow. I think it's sallied out to dig her way down to the hedge, where she paused and took a survey. All quiet, curtains down at the lower windows, servants out of sight, and nothing human visible but a curly black head leaning on a thin hand at the upper window. There he is, thought Joe. Poor boy, all alone and sick this dismal day. It is a shame. I'll toss up a snowball and make him look out, and then say a kind word to him. Up went a handful of soft snow, and the head turned at once, showing a face which lost its less, less, listless look in a minute as the big eyes brightened and the mouth began to smile. Jo nodded and laughed and flourished her broom as she called out, "How do you do? Are you sick?" Larry, Larry opened the window and croaked out as hoarsely as a raven, "Better, thank you. I've had a bad cold and been shut up a week." "I'm sorry. What do you amuse yourself with?" "Nothing. It's a dull as Tom's. Okay, Tombs up here. Don't you read?" "Not much. They won't let me." Can't, can't somebody read to you?" "Grandpa does. Sometimes. But books don't interest him, and I hate to ask Brooke all the time." "Have someone come and see you then." "There isn't anyone I'd like to see. Boys make such a row, and my head is weak. Isn't there some nice girl who'd read and amuse you? Girls are quiet and like to play nurse." Don't you know don't know any?" "You know me," began Jo, then laughed and stopped. "So I do." "Will you come, please?" cried Larry. "I'm not quiet and nice, but I'll come, if Mother will let me. I'll go ask her. Shut the window, like a good boy, and wait till I come." With that, Jo shouldered her broom and marched into the house, wondering what they would all say to her. Larry was in a flutter of excitement at the idea of having company and flew about to get ready, for, as Mrs. March said, he was a little gentleman and did honour to the coming guest by brushing his curly pate, putting on a fresh collar, and trying to tidy up the room, which, in spite of half a dozen servants, was anything but neat. Presently there came a loud ring, then a decided voice, asking for Mr. Larry, and a surprised-looking servant came running up to announce a young lady. "All right, show her up. It it's Miss Jo," said Larry, going to the door of his little parlour to meet Jo, who appeared looking rosy and quite at her ease, with a covered dish in one hand and Beth's 3 kittens in the other. "Here I am, bag and baggage," she said briskly. "Mother sent her love, and was glad if I could do anything for you. Meg wanted me to bring some of her blankmensch. What is this? Blankmensch? Blankmensch. Don't know. She makes it very nicely, and Beth thought her cats would be comforting. I knew you'd laugh at them, but I couldn't refuse." She was so